Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane, and it's the morning of Monday, the 11th of March, 2019. And I'm still down here in the southwest of England at the moment. It's a beautiful morning. The skies are clear. The sun, unfortunately, has some remarkable glare as a result of aircraft pollution. But without exception, it is a beautiful morning. And the birdsong here is truly wonderful. And each morning I listen for that birdsong because sadly I know that this is something that is not only disappearing at a phenomenal rate of knots, particularly in urban areas, but is actually likely to be completely wiped out within the next probably decade or less, particularly if the 5G rollout continues at the intended pace. So I implore you, before you rush off to work or rush off to take the kids to school, just stand for a second before you get in the car and just listen and see if you hear that birdsong, because something that I've taken for granted perhaps for 62 plus years now, but now I really relish hearing that birdsong in the morning, and hopefully collectively we can do something about that and make sure that future generations do get to enjoy and appreciate it as well. Well, this morning, obviously tomorrow is a big day. It's a really big day in London for Lynn Dyer, the biochemist who worked with David Noakes to develop an extremely effective treatment for cancer and many other debilitating illnesses and diseases. Well, something caught my eye yesterday in the Mail on Sunday, and it was a double-page spread on the rise in knife crime around the country. And there were two headlines on there that really caught my eye. It said, "Dramatic fall in number of thugs convicted of violent crimes being sent to jail." And then another line which said, "Only 50% of those repeatedly arrested with knives are jailed." So, you can stab someone or wield a knife, and the likelihood is that you're going to get little more than a slap on the wrist. But you have the audacity to develop an extremely effective treatment which would benefit probably 50% of the population at some point over the course of their life, and the full wrath of Big Pharma and their henchmen will descend upon you like the proverbial ton of bricks. And I must confess that whilst I was sitting through the Newman hearing, I almost said trial, but it wasn't a trial, the Newman hearing for David Noakes and his ex-wife Lynn, I had some degree of sympathy, and I'm using that term a little loosely, but I had some degree of sympathy for Justice Nicholas Lorraine Smith, because he was caught between a rock and a hard place, and he let it be known through the hearing that really he was behind the eight ball. And he made the observation that the court was not a court of morality, it was a court of law. And he was effectively trying to use that, or did use it, as his sort of get out of jail card, no pun intended, on the basis that, look, I know that I shouldn't be sentencing these people who have provided this remarkable treatment for so many, and 140, including 141 people on Guernsey who were provided the treatment for free, but the law and Big Pharma have such enormous power that I really have no choice. And when a judge has to make the observation that it's not a court of morality, what he's really saying is, wake up, people. This is a court of the corporatocracy. And I am here not to administer justice. I am here to uphold the protectionism afforded to the pharmaceutical industry by complicit and compliant puppet politicians. And the judiciary, unfortunately, is no longer independent of the corporatocracy. In fact, as I can certainly vouch from my multiple challenges against the unconventional gas industry, once you are in particularly a commercial court, then the health and well-being of the population is a complete irrelevance, because what is primary is the protection of the revenue streams of the corporations. So, you know, Justice Lorraine Smith could, of course, have shown the courage to effectively dismiss the charges and just say, well, you know, they pleaded guilty, but guilty to what? Guilty to producing and distributing a product that has minimal side effects, and the efficacy of which is justified by so many people who have basically acknowledged that they have benefited from taking this product. But it doesn't matter whether it's GC-MAF or it's cannabis oil. Anything that threatens the supremacy of Big Pharma and anything which threatens their revenue stream, basically, is going to be protected by the court. So, tomorrow morning, at the Royal Courts of Justice, Lynn Thayer will be facing the prospect of being extradited to France. So the British authorities couldn't find enough. We've got a problem apparently with sound on. Let's try this. It might be a bit windy, but let's just see if that works. Okay, so tomorrow, Lynn Thayer is facing the prospect of being extradited to France. So the British authorities basically obviously couldn't find enough to actually charge her. So the French stepped in and said, well, don't worry, because we'll ensure that she's persecuted by keeping her in a state of limbo for 4 years, which she's certainly been, it's been 2 years. It's 2 years now, a little over 2 years since the extradition order was sought. Now, the European arrest warrant regulations basically state that if a country requests that an arrest warrant be issued, then the country in which that person is currently resident has 60 days to effect the arrest warrant. Well, Lynn has been on a remand, effectively, well, not on remand, but on bail, for 2 years, a little over 2 years, 700 days apparently. So obviously she's not in a good place right now. She's really feeling the stress. And, there's an enormous responsibility on her legal team. And one can only hope that her legal team have done the necessary preparation to ensure that basically this extradition order is dismissed. And one can only hope that whomever it is that is appointed to preside over this case basically has an attack of conscience and does the right thing rather than succumb to the pressures brought about by the corporatocracy. So this is a really big day. And it's so important to show the courts that Lynn has enormous support from all around the country. And basically, anyone who has ever lost a loved one or friend, or has somebody in their family, or they know someone who is currently undergoing the pernicious chemo or radiotherapy, because that's all that's effectively on offer within the national health system, then they should find a way to be at the court tomorrow, which of course would mean that half the country would be there. So that isn't going to happen. But hopefully there will be enough people who can find the time to get to London. I mean, when one takes into account that some 16 million people live within an hour's travel of London, then one would hope that a significant proportion of those can find their way to the Royal Courts of Justice and join with me and others who will be there at from 9:30 tomorrow, and we will be going into the court, and we need that courtroom to be absolutely rammed. So this is where we're at right now. The people who stand up to the corporatocracy, the people who say, you know what, we're just going to do the right thing. And if we believe that we've got a product that can genuinely help people, and we're comfortable that it does what it says on the tin, then we're just going to have to do it and deal with the consequences as they arise. So David and Lynn have helped more people than certainly Big Pharma. I mean, Big Pharma provides products that attach the recipient to their revenue stream for as long as possible. And as far as Big Pharma is concerned, the moment that they've got you hooked on products that you basically need repeat prescriptions for, then they are extremely happy. So the quicker that they can get people onto their payroll effectively, or revenue stream, then the happier they are. And of course, this may well account in a big way for why we have so many problems with the youth of today, or certainly a significant percentage of the youth today. And the other aspect of this that gives me great cause for concern is the increasing cases of violence by children against their parents. And there are so many possible reasons for this, but unsurprisingly, the most significant cause for violence by children against their parents was trying to remove their phone or trying to reduce their screen time. But that's just a symptom, because the root cause is probably going way back, starting with the massive vaccine program, pumping these toxins into the children, the young children. Almost immediately they enter into this mortal realm. And then of course it's the crap food, it's the crap drinks, it's the constant bombardment from the media, the violence contained within that media, it's the dumbed down schooling, the lack of realistic prospects, or the risk of going into massive debt before they reach the age of 21. There are so many reasons why our generation has effectively let down the youth of today, because we have failed to stop the rampant corporatism that is so dominant within our society today. And you know what? Yesterday as well, I was shown a video that's been produced by Momentum, the wing of the Labour Party, and it is a pathetic and crass and extremely ignorant attempt to try to address the alleged anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. And there are so many wrongly stated facts within that video, it's an embarrassment. And I'll just leave you with one of those observations that was made in that video, and it said that it is a myth that the Bank of England is a private bank. And it goes on to say that the Bank of England is a state institution. Well, this just goes to show not only the level of ignorance, but the level to which one of the two primary political parties in this country will go to try to prevent people from actually knowing the truth. And one of the reasons, and it is a beautiful example, one of the reasons that China has built more high-speed rail mileage in the past decade than the rest of the world put together. And that is because the Chinese are not in hock to the global banking system. The Chinese government manages the issuance of currency, interest-free currency. And this is, a massive reason for China's exponential growth, that the country is not constrained by borrowing, and it has not given the banks the responsibility for creating the money. China has adopted the model of North Dakota, the only state in the US that isn't bankrupt, because since the early 1920s, North Dakota has been outside of the Federal Reserve banking system, and the state of North Dakota, the government of North Dakota, takes responsibility for the issuance of currency in North Dakota and for effectively ensuring that state projects have the appropriate interest-free funding. So much going on right now. Of course, this is the week with the Ides of March. That's Friday, the 15th of March. And, right now, Theresa May isn't just looking for the potential assault from Brutus, but from pretty much, everyone in her immediate circle. And, of course, Theresa May has performed her role brilliantly, but she won't know that because she doesn't have the intellect to realise that she was actually put in that job to bring about the chaos that's ensued. And of course, when you don't have the intellect to comprehend the magnitude of the task that you've effectively taken responsibility for, it can only end in disaster. But it has served a wonderful purpose, because I think that the percentage of people throughout the country who now realise that the political system in this country is basically a complete failure. And, that's from 47 years of allowing the EU to effectively determine the legislation that, rolls downhill. So there are very, very few MPs who genuinely have the interest of their electorate at heart. They might do when they initially stand for office, but ultimately, of course, they realise that actually this is a pretty nice gravy train, and all you got to do to stay on that gravy train is sell your soul. Well, tomorrow, of course, we'll be supporting somebody who has not only not sold their soul, but has paid and is continuing to pay a terrible price for holding their principles and attempting to produce a product that would benefit a phenomenal percentage of humanity. So, look, thanks for joining me today. And, if you can, get to the Royal Courts of Justice on the Strand tomorrow for 9:30 or even a bit later, and come and support Lynn Tyre, then I know that Lynn and all of her close associates and immediate family would be greatly appreciative. So, thanks a lot, and I'm not going to do a live stream tomorrow morning, obviously it's Tuesday, but I will do a live stream, hopefully with Lynn, once we come out of court tomorrow afternoon. So if you can't be there, of course we completely understand. I mean, life has to go on, but if you can't be there, then please take some time out tomorrow morning to visualise Lynn being released and the extradition order being dismissed. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll catch with you hopefully tomorrow afternoon, or if not, then on Wednesday morning at 8:30. You have a great day.